Welcome back to another episode of the ADHD Book Club with me, ADHD Jack. I don't know, that sounds a bit weird doing that. Welcome back. This week we're talking about a book that I've read a while back called Can't Hurt Me by a chap called David Goggins, who is a Navy SEAL or former Navy SEAL and now crazy ultra marathon runner bloke and just does loads of other stuff. He is dude, I suppose, in some ways. He's very, very much a kind of go-getter, very forward thinking. He gets going. He just does shit, right? And this book is kind of like a bit like a part memoir, part sort of self-help, a book about how to kind of overcome obstacles and be a better person and do more with your life and stuff. And it's all very, very noble and admirable, I suppose. But is it relevant for people with ADHD? Well, let's find out. So what are some of the key themes? Well, one of the key themes in this book is resilience and perseverance. And so David Goggins kind of talks about how he had like a really shit life and he's kind of overcome all of these challenges and obstacles to become a Navy SEAL and an ultra marathoner, and at some point he just breaks a world record for pull-ups or something and then tears the skin off his hands, I think. It's all quite grim. And I think, yeah, resilience and perseverance, like maybe resilience certainly is something that for people with ADHD is just kind of like a default mode, right? Like we've suffer setbacks on a day-to-day basis, we struggle with shit on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, resilience is sort of in our DNA in a way. So I don't think we need to necessarily learn this lesson. Perseverance, on the other hand, yeah, I think that's probably one that we could benefit from, because there's different things, isn't it? Perseverance versus resilience. Resilience is getting hit and getting back up again. Perseverance is getting hit, getting back up again, and then keep going with that same thing. Whereas I think what we tend to do is we get hit, we go down, we get up, and then we move on. We get out of the fight, we move somewhere else, keep out of danger, which I think is the more sensible approach, to be honest with you. But anyway, so yeah, maybe perseverance is the one that we need to learn. But how do you fucking learn that? How do you develop that when you've got ADHD? I guess it comes down to trying to just stick with things a bit longer than what you would normally want. You would normally. So maybe it's just about being a little bit more sticky with it, more than you were the other day. You got a hit and you just kind of get back into the game and carry on for a little bit more than you would otherwise. That's all I got with that one. Number 2 is embracing suffering. So David Goggins, he kind of suggests that the most growth and self-improvement comes from embracing your suffering and kind of pushing beyond your comfort zone and subjecting yourself to extreme challenges, which he does with this like ultra marathon shit and pull-ups and whatever. And in that extreme challenge and suffering, you find your strength, your inner strength and your true self. And again, I think in a way it's sort of like a default as people with ADHD, like you just kind of our life is somewhat more suffering oriented than other people's, because we have to deal with stuff that other people don't have to necessarily deal with. Again, I'm not going through this like woe is me, how shit is it, ADHD stuff, but there are elements of it that are quite shit and quite bad, and we just kind of deal with it and get on with it. And there's a lot of valor in that. Also, when it comes to like getting out of our comfort zone, I feel like we do that by default anyway as well. Like we're quite impulsive, so you find yourself doing shit and you're like, oh fuck, actually I didn't know how to do that, but then you just done it anyway. And I don't think there's a lesson there for us. I think this is just our mode, how we are generally. Yeah, maybe he has ADHD. Let's not go there. Number 3, mindset and mental toughness. So he kind of emphasizes the importance of overcoming self-doubt and fear and negative thinking in order to grow as a person. And isn't that a lovely idea? But in practice, when you've got ADHD, that is fucking hard balls. And the reason is, people with ADHD have been subjected to, by the age of 10, 20,000 negative comments and corrections from teachers and parents and friends even. So by the age of 10, you've heard that you're a bit of a twat 20,000 times. So it's no wonder really that our sort of main default fallback mode is to go into negative thinking and self-doubt and just thinking that we are a twat. When you add into that mix as well propensity to overthink and our inability to deal with rejection very well. We have this rejection sensitivity. It's like, yeah, it's going to be very, very hard for us to develop that mental toughness or that positive thinking in the face of shit. If you try and sort of center in on this as someone with ADHD, I think you're also going to end up on a bit of a spiral, a dodgy path, because you're going to say, right, I don't want to be thinking negatively anymore. Then you're going to think negatively because that's how you are. And then you'll be like, oh, you fucking twat. You were thinking negatively, weren't you, you bastard? And then you're thinking negatively about yourself again, thinking negatively. And it's a vicious cycle. And then you're in a trap and you can't get out, as Elvis says. Not necessarily about this topic, but, you know, it's broadly the same, I think. I don't know what we're on. 1, 2, 3. Number 4 is accountability and ownership. David Goggins talks about taking full ownership for your life and everything that you do and your choices and your actions and everything that's happened. Stop making excuses, take ownership over your decisions. And it's a bit like, it's like not just even taking ownership of your decisions, but taking ownership of your reaction to everything, what things happen to you and how you react. I get it. It makes sense. It definitely makes sense. But again, I think when you have ADHD, there are some things that are just beyond your control, or at least a lot harder to control because of this disorder. So we struggle to control our impulses. We struggle to control how we direct our attention. We struggle to, react in a non-emotional way to criticism. These things are certainly overcomable, but they're not easy to overcome when you have ADHD because your whole kind of biology and neurochemistry is set up in such a way that it's geared towards not being able to overcome it. Taking ownership for those kind of the way you act or the way that you react to things is not easy with ADHD. Probably worthwhile trying still. I think it's certainly something we should still try to do, but yeah, not easy. I think also you have to accept that you've got less control over these things than normal people, because I think it's certainly something I've been battling with since I've been diagnosed. Well, since pre that, but now at least having the explanation since I've been diagnosed, is that kind of like, oh, why can't I just fucking do this? Why can't I just not procrastinate? Again, you then start falling into the negative self-talk, and that's not going to help you at all. And I think you have to, in order to be able to get past those limitations and find strategies and processes that work for you that help you mitigate some of that, you have to first accept that is who you are, or that's what you're like, so that you can then find ways of dealing with it. If you're trying to push against it and say, no, I'm not like that, I'm just gonna go past it, I'm gonna get it done, it's just not gonna work. Eventually it's not gonna work. You're gonna burn out, you're gonna be fucked. So yeah, don't do that. Number 5 is breaking limitations. So in the book, he does stuff that's like way, way beyond what normal people can do, right? Like, I can't remember exactly how many pull-ups he does, but he's doing it for literally like days on end, which is just fucking weird. He kind of talks about how you should get beyond, you can push beyond these limitations, and you find this sort of like this amazing white space that you never knew you could ever get to. And it's not Valhalla, like Nirvana. There you go, Nirvana. And that's great, and I get it again. But again, we are limited somewhat by some of our biology and neurochemistry with ADHD. Again, not to the extent that you can't push past it, you definitely, or not to the extent that you can't get around it, but to the extent that it is going to make that harder. And I think we are already kind of wired to berate ourselves, as I said. So you're gonna, if you can't push past those limitations, or the limitations that you've either created or that your biology has actually created, you're gonna fall into that trap again, the Elvis trap of berating yourself, of negative self-talk, of not being happy, of thinking that you're worthless, and blah blah blah. And it's just, ideally, I'd love to be, you want to be able to get past those limitations that you've set yourself, or your mind has set yourself, but you've also got to accept that sometimes you're not going to be able to do that, and that there are constraints on your abilities because of this disorder. And you've got to be self-compassionate. You've got to allow for that bit of leeway to fail or not get to where you want to get to. And that is really fucking hard, because we are not set up in that way to accept that, but that is what we have to accept. And without being able to accept, you're not going to eventually get to those places beyond the limitations. So you try and force the issue, you try and push past these barriers, and you're not going to have a good time of it. You're going to end up stuck. You're going to end up burnt out. You're going to end up tired. You're not going to do ultra marathons or pull-ups for days on end. So just chill a little bit. If you like that one, like, like it on this video place, YouTube, press the button, like, subscribe as well, and comment. Tell me, what do you think about David Goggins? Do you like him? Do you think he just doesn't talk the right stuff? I don't know. So tell me something about that. Cool. Bye.